Welcome to my Evaluating Exponents video. It's based on the original Q squared that you took, so it should also help you do your corrections. Everyone, 2 to the 0 is 1. Remember that anything to the 0 power is 1, except 0 to the 0 power, we say, is undefined or indeterminate. We'll be proving that later in the class when we get to chapter 5, but right now you can just memorize that 2 to the 0, or anything to the 0, is 1. So, negative 2 in a hug to the 0 power would be still 1. The entire negative 2 is in parentheses, which means all of it is to the 0 power. Now look at this one. There is no parenthesis. The negative sign is not raised to the 0 power because only the 2 is raised to the 0 power when there is no parentheses. What do I call this negative sign in class? I call it a zapper because it really represents a negative 1, multiplying negative 1 times 2 to the 0. So the operation really looks like this. The negative sign, which is negative 1, times 2 to the 0 would give you negative 1. It zaps it at the end because multiplication in PEMDAS is after exponents. So you would do the exponent first and you'd get 1, then multiply by negative 1 and you get negative 1. So now let's review the odd-even rule with and without parentheses. First with even powers. I've given you 2 examples from the Q squared, one in parentheses and one not. Both of those are to the even power 4. Think. This is what you should be thinking. And the 2 answers are positive 16 and negative 16, 2 different answers. In the first one, both the negative sign and the 2 are to the 4th power. So there are 4 negatives. 4 negatives is an even number, 4, and that would give you a positive. But in the bottom, there's only 1 negative, the zapper, because there are no parentheses, so only the 2 is to the 4th power, and then you multiply by the negative sign, or negative 1, at the end. Now we've got odd powers. Again, it's negative 2, 1 in parentheses, 1 without, to an odd power 3. So now what you should be thinking is the top one has 3 negatives, the bottom one 1 negative, and both of the answers this time are negative, negative 8. In the first one, because it's in parentheses, there are 3 negatives. That's an odd number of negatives. That's negative. In the bottom, it has a zapper, which is only 1 negative, but that's still odd, so both of them are negative. So for different reasons, when you raise a negative power, a negative base, to an odd power, you always get a negative answer. Try these. The top one is 64. The bottom one is negative 32. So for the top one, you get 6 negatives. It's in a hug, so that's 6 negatives. That's positive because it's even. In the bottom, it's got a zapper. It's negative. Try these. The top one is negative 64. The bottom one is negative 32. Why is there only 1 negative in this problem? It's because it's a zapper. There's no parenthesis. There are 5 negatives in this problem. Why? Because there's a parenthesis, and therefore the negative sign, which is really negative 1, is raised to the 5th power. So that's 5 negatives. That's an odd number of negatives, which makes the answer negative. These were not on the Q squared, but they're fair game for the test. You can tell that there's a hug for both of them, but now I've got an extra negative on both of them outside, and I said that loud, the parentheses, so think what that would do. The top one is negative 64. In total, there would be 7 negatives in this problem, which is odd. which means the answer is negative. 6 from inside the parenthesis, and the extra 1 zapping at the end, 7, is odd, negative. The bottom answer is positive 32. Again, 5 negatives from inside to the power, plus the 1 outside zapper, 5 plus 6, 1, 6. That's even, so the answer is positive. Now I'm going to give you the worked out answers to the q squared of the harder ones so you can find your mistakes. You can freeze the video if you need to. Notice you do not distribute the 16 to the 9 and the negative 11. First of all, you cannot do that because there's a power outside. So 9 minus 11 is negative 2. Then you need to square that. So some of you distributed, and number 1, you should not do that. This is just order of operations. It's easier just to do the parentheses first. But number 2, you cannot do that in this case because the parentheses is squared and you need to do exponents before you multiply. Take a look at this one that a lot of you got wrong. A lot of you actually ended up with positive 225 instead of negative 225. See if you can find your mistake. Again, notice that you go inside the parentheses first. You do not distribute that initial negative sign, that zapper, till the end, till after you simplify that parenthesis. So you're simplifying the 3 squared first. It's actually negative 3 squared, which is negative 9. And then you're multiplying the negative 9 times the positive 5 and getting negative 45. Then you're combining the 30 and the negative 45 and getting negative 15. Then you're squaring the outside. You can't go plus plus because the negative 15 is squared. So when you square that, you get positive 225, zap, negative 225. Remember when you plug in negative numbers, especially if they're raised to a power, but anyway, you always should put them in a hug. Remember, you cannot go plus plus on on ones that have exponents, but on the negative negative 3 inside the parenthesis, you can because that was not raised to a power. This was another one where you plugged in negative 3 and negative 4, put them in parentheses. Many of you thought you should multiply xy first, but notice xy is not in parentheses and then squared. It was only the y that was squared. This one, the most important thing that I can tell you is don't skip steps. Methodically write in parentheses the negative 3 each time. Obviously the negative 4 wasn't necessary. There were no y's in this problem. And then simplify each exponent carefully, bringing down the zapper, the zapper, the zapper, and then there's a plus. And that's what I've typed in here. Make sure you always simplify the exponent first. You can never go plus plus if there's an exponent on the outside. You have to do the exponent first and then zap. This was the one that was a fraction. It really does matter to put it in parentheses. And finally, you never need to correct a bonus problem, but I really wanted you to see this because, you know, again, this is fair game for the test, especially as another bonus problem on the test. It wouldn't be the exact question, but it would be similar. So first you're going to simplify the negative x cubed. You've got negative, 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 x, right? So that's going to make it positive with the zapper outside. 4 negatives make it positive x cubed times negative 1 over x. That's going to give you x squared because the x will cross cancel. And then it's multiplied by the negative, so it's negative x squared. And then you're adding positive x squared, PEMDAS. You don't add till the very end, so that plus x squared doesn't happen till the very end. And they're additive inverses, yay, and so the answer was 0. I hope that helped. I'll see you in class. Bye.